In this video, we're going to go on a cook's tour of how to use Rumen8 if you have not used the program before. This is assuming that you have downloaded the program from the Rumen8 website and have installed it on your computer. And when you open Rumen8 up, it looks like this. Now, Rumen8 comes in both dairy mode and beef mode. And so the first thing you want to know is how to switch between those. And this is done through the file menu at the top left of your screen. And you can see down at the bottom here, you can switch between dairy and beef. So we will, for this demonstration, switch to beef. It then asks you if you want to save a diet, even though you haven't started one. And then also we suggest that beginners start with Rumen8 in what we call compact mode, which is a cut down version of Rumen8, to familiarize yourself first. So this is what Rumen8 looks like, Rumen8 beef in compact mode. There's entry boxes here on the left to enter feeds that you're feeding. And on the right here is a large section dedicated to describing your cow. Now, we'll come to that in a minute, but first of all, we encourage you to register as a Rumen8 user. This enables Rumen8 to keep track of how many people are using the program. It is not used for any other purpose. To register, you simply need to go to the Rumen8 website, fill out the registration form, and you will then get an email back, normally within 24 hours, with your registration name and registration code. And registration is done through the help menu, help registration. So you fill out your username and your registration code and register. That will then give you full access to all the functions of Rumen8. Without registration, you are limited in the number of functions you can use. So let's go on a tour. How do you get started? The first thing to do is to start describing the groups of animals that you are interested in creating a diet for. Obviously, if you have different classes of animals on your farm, you need to do this exercise for each group of animals separately. So you can select the type of animals, whether it's an unmated heifer, a cow, or any other class. In this drop-down box here, you can describe breed on the right-hand side of the screen, and other factors such as live weight of the animal, if it's a cow, the number of days in calf, her age, etc. At the bottom of the screen there, her activity, whether your farm is flat or undulating, and how far animals typically have to walk. All that affects energy requirements. So once we've described our animal, the next step is to start feeding the animal by loading feeds from a library. And in this case, we're going to click on just an example diet. We've got some rather poor quality silage that we know isn't really adequate for feeding our lactating cows. And we're therefore also going to feed a little bit of barley grain. And we think from the weights of the silage rolls that we're feeding 9 kilos of dry matter or 21 kilos of silage as fed. And that is including the moisture content. And 2.3 kilos of barley as fed, 2 kilos of dry matter. So that's what we reckon is our diet for these cows, and we're then interested to assess how well this is meeting animal requirements. Now, to do that, you click on the diet tab, and the diet tab shows you a number of colored progress bars that tell you how well this diet meets requirements for this animal in terms of intake capacity, energy and protein supply, minerals, and a number of other nutritional parameters. And a green progress bar tells you that you're on target, you're within where you want to be. Red means you're under target and yellow means you're over target. Now in this case we've got a bit of a mixed bag. The green progress bar for intake tells us that the animal can in fact eat this. We're not exceeding intake capacity of the animal. In fact, this animal could eat a little bit more. And it needs to eat a little bit more because, as you can see from the red metabolizable energy bar, we are actually short of energy. So we either have to feed more silage or we have to feed a little bit more barley grain, or perhaps both. And here we go with a small adjustment. We are still within the intake limits of the animal. Our energy requirements are met. Our protein requirements are exceeded, but maybe that's something we have to accept because we can't really take protein out of these diets. And then other nutritional parameters are described as well. So that's on the nutritional side, but we also formulate diets to assess whether economically we're actually going forwards or backwards. So to assess our cost price benefits, we click on the cost price tab. And there we have to enter a feed cost for all our feeds and also assign an economic value to our animal product. So in this case, we haven't got a cost entered for silage. So we're going to say the silage is costing us $200 a ton of dry matter, which is a typical figure for silage. And we're saying our barley is costing us $400 per ton of dry matter, or $351 per ton as fed. That's including the moisture. And also, it's always good practice to assign an economic value to our animal productivity. So in our case, we're going to assign a value of $5 per kilo carcass weight gain. Although it's a lactating cow, where life weight gain is not really considered directly, it is always good practice to assign an economic value to our animal productivity. Once we've done that, Rumen8 then calculates an economic cost benefit, which is summarized at the bottom left of your screen. It shows in dollars per head per day the cost of our diet, our income that we would be gaining if we were selling animal product, and then the margin, the difference between animal income and feed cost. Now, of course, in the case of a lactating cow, we're not actually selling any animal product directly, only indirectly through the life weight gain of the calf. So it's in that regard an example you don't have to take too much notice of. But our feed is costing us $2.78, and the little bit of life weight gain is giving us a slight income or relative income, so this would result in a negative margin over feed cost. So this gives you a summary of how to start with Rumen8. We enter the details of our animals that we're interested in. We provide these animals with a diet that we think we're feeding. We then check on how well that diet is meeting nutritional requirements, and also by entering economic values, we can then get a margin over feed cost. Now, we went through this fairly quickly, but you can also access this example, this introduction, through our help menu. If you click on Introduction to Rumen8, you will then be guided through 18 steps of how to access the functions of the program. And that completes our cook's tour of how to use Rumen8.